Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmidty, Swanee and Clarkey visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised. All right. How are we all?
Very well, thank you.
Yes, very well,
Good
very
to
well.
see you again.
Likewise.
Good. How was your week?
I shall go first because
Got
I've had a big
news?
week.
Whoa, okay.
Ooh, do tell.
Well, yeah, it has been a big week. My little children finished primary school, so now I'm not, a mother of little people anymore. They're all flying the nest before I know it. So we did that. So we're now on school holidays and we've had a couple of social functions. So it's been a busy, busy week, as often people find at this time of the year. How's your week been?
And you, Clarkey? Yeah. How's yours?
How's my week been? Oh, I think it's been okay. Not really lots to report. Just a bit of work and a bit of not much else, I think. We did go and see John Williamson last night, who most of our listeners probably know because they're from Australia. But for anyone who doesn't, he's a bit of a folky type.
Kind of bloke.
Sings lots of songs about the bush and the outback and whatnot. Really, really good. We loved it. Yes.
There you go.
How about yours?
Yeah, good. So mostly work. I went out on Friday night for a colleague's leaving do, and that was lovely because we had all the old team who used to work in the team, so it was really nice. And then I'm up at Ilden at the moment because I'm helping my brother replace the roof on his home, which is a holiday house. And last week when I was up here, I put out those eco fly traps and wasp traps. And I came back yesterday and discovered that I'm a mass murderer. Oh, they were absolutely
Brilliant.
full.
Did you
It
get the
was-
wasps
I
as
suppose
well,
it
or
is, but
just
I
the
was like-
flies?
Yeah.
Oh, that
yeah,
sounds very
yeah, no, I was-
rewarding. That sounds very. That sounds like those. Oh, I just saw it the other day. I hadn't seen them in a while. The patches that you put underneath your feet, they're called Japanese, and they're supposed to draw all the toxins out.
And they suck all the
It's
stuff
like the thing
out,
where
yeah.
the thing where you peel the blackheads off your nose. I think I'd get the same reaction if I went
Yep.
back and checked out my eco pads.
Oh, these things, it was like the killing fields. I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
So that was a bit
Yeah.
gross, but I also, I will admit, deep down I thought, good. That's a few thousand less flies to bother
You're doing
me.
your bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whilst you say it's like mass murder and maybe it makes you feel a little bit bad, if you then go and get those dead flies, which come in, like cups full kind of thing,
Ugh.
and feed them to the chickens will love you.
Yeah, I need to
So,
get some
all
chickens.
good.
Yeah, I need to get some chickens so I can feed
yeah.
them the millions of dead flies. Yeah, so
Exactly.
that was me, really. And what are we drinking?
Well, I'm glad you asked. So this is the first time that I haven't kicked off an episode of this with a wine. I've made a little cocktail for us today.
It's not a rosé spritzer
show
in a
it to
can,
you.
perchance.
It's definitely not a rosé spritzer in a can. It's modelled on a cocktail called a drink called a Jamaican peanut punch, and you can choose or not choose to put white rum in it. Well, I've put a few other things in it, so I'm calling it a Clarkey's Nut Punch.
Of course you
You
are.
got there before I did. That is brilliant. Clarkey's Nut Punch.
Yes.
So what's in a
So,
Clarkey's Nut Punch?
There we go. That's what we're having. It has almond milk and oats and
Oh,
spiced rum and what else? Maple syrup, cinnamon, nutmeg, just those kinds of
It's quite
things.
delicious.
It is quite
I'm
nice.
quite
it's like
confused.
It's an
breakfast
alcoholic.
smoothie.
I was going to say it's a smoothie.
Yeah, it's like
it's an alcoholic smoothie.
100%. Yeah, and
Right.
it's actually reasonably healthy. So yeah, delicious.
give you a good kick in the nuts. Or punch in the nuts.
And what about you, Swanee?
Sorry, I nearly had my drink go everywhere then.
A very highbrow Diet Coke and vodka.
Oh, Perfect.
I've been very, very nasally at the moment with that. I'm having like a bit of a hay fever season where even if I don't drink, I wake up and I sound horrendous.
Right.
So I'm just having a little light one because I'm really, really struggling to breathe,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
I feel like you're having a nasally life.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what you,
I've got a
yeah.
friend of ours who wants to sort of sort me out. And I think I might finally be ready because it's been really quite bad the last couple of weeks. And my husband's threatening to record me sleeping. And I said to him, you don't even need to. I know how much noise I must be making because I know what it's like when I wake up. I must
I've
be a
seen
monster.
Star Wars. I know how Darth Vader breathes.
That's me, especially after a couple of wines. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm just... everybody who knows me knows how nasally I am. It's my weak point. But anyway, this will get me through this afternoon. What are you drinking, Schmidty, darling?
I am drinking a gin and tonic made with my own damson gin that I made. Well, I don't know. This one's the last batch, so this would be. I think this came out. I bottled it in November. So I take the plums from my damson tree and I put them in gin. Basically, I don't make the actual gin for about 3 months, and then you get this lovely. It's like slow gin, basically. I create my own slow gin. And it's nice and warm where I am, so that's
It sounds very nice. It sounds like it's the
Very
total,
nice.
the complete opposite of what you drank last week.
Yes.
Where you were going for something entirely synthetic. Now,
Oh.
yes. How did you feel after those? Were they fine? Were you fine?
Well, I only had the two, and then I stopped.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I felt okay, but I did have quite even halfway. I think it was halfway through recording. I put myself on mute and had to have a couple of chewy quickies because of the indigestion I was getting from them. So they were just basically burning me from the inside out.
God.
So yeah, I decided they would be put in the fridge and served to guests at various parties and never to be touched by me again. But that's okay. You got to try it once, don't you, guys?
Nice.
You got to just be in it to win it.
So you won't get the gig as their brand ambassador.
Absolutely.
Then?
Oh, I doubt it. I couldn't even pronounce their brand, let alone. And I think my review of it being sweet and yet oddly tasteless with a bouquet of methylated spirits might not be quite what they were going for. Anywho. All right. So, would you like to hear a little story?
Oh, yes, please.
I've got a story,
Would
Stuart.
love to, yes.
All right,
Go
cool.
for it, darling.
So, Paul, here's an opportunity for you to earn another pop
Yes.
culture point from Swanee. Can you
Yes.
name the early?
Oh, I'm nervous.
Can you name the early 1980s TV show whose popular lead went on to be a teen wolf, meet his mother before he was born, and in recent times has been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease?
That's a
It's
lot
that
of
Michael
clues.
J. Fox one, Family Ties.
Yes.
No, is that?
Yes.
I nearly
Oh
said
my God,
who's
I
the
love
boss.
that show.
No,
Did?
no, you've got it in one.
With Tony Danza.
And you're right,
I
Carla.
love that show, Schmidty.
You're right, Carla. I did
loved
provide
it.
quite a lot of clues as to it being Michael J. Fox driven. Yep.
Fox, yep. Oh, I love Michael J. Fox, and I loved Alex P. Keaton so much.
Well,
his character in that show.
I'm glad.
I think I called my son Alex after him.
Oh, there you go. Well, I'm glad because
Wow.
I watched most of them. They were on after school when I was in primary school. And I always really liked it. It was a bit schmaltzy. But when I was reading a bit more about it for the purposes of this intro, apparently, did you know this? The writers covered storylines around alcoholism, incest and death. Well, death you get, but incest. I thought that was quite
I
interesting.
don't recall the incest. No.
No. I'm not sure
I
I
don't
would have
remember
said.
any
Well,
of that.
I'm going to get onto thin ice already very early on in this episode, but the storyline,
Break
something
straight
about
through it.
Mallory. Yeah, something about Mallory complaining that Uncle someone or other made a pass at her. So, not saying it's not incest, but it's not my
Right.
definition of incest. Anywho, right. So to your point, Alex Keating.
Let me guess.
Keaton, sorry.
Let me
Alex
guess.
P.
She
Keaton.
his
P.
his
Keaton.
pass wasn't successful because she gave him a good nut punch.
Yeah, so I didn't actually watch the episode, but I reckon, she would have nut punched
That's
him
what
for
would have
sure.
happened, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yes, Alex, the Republican eldest boy who rejected his ex-hippie radical parents and their ways.
Yeah.
I always
that's
felt
right,
sorry
yeah.
for poor old Mallory because, she was always picked on by Alex and everyone thought she was dumb. But apparently, again, doing the reading, Justine Bateman, when she was playing Mallory in the very, very early shows, when they were delivering the lines where Alex was teasing her, apparently she played it as kind of acting like it was a compliment, like, thanks, Alex. And the writers and the producers loved it and thought it was hilarious. So because she wasn't supposed to be stupid ever, the original character. So, yeah. So then, so basically the actress played it in such a way that.
So she made Mallory stupid.
She made Mallory stupid. That's right. Yes.
Mallory. I even love that
That's
name.
a credit.
So families are pretty important to most of us. And of course, we're tied together by common experiences, growing up together, good or bad. And if you're one of my family, a sense of tribe that is super strong. There's another little facet that ties families together. And the cases I'm going to talk about in a minute highlight the importance of a little thing called DNA. So, Clarky and Swanee, little science question here. How many genes does a person have?
Oh, God, 37
I'll help you.
chromosomes?
Well,
30,
I've got about 3
20,
pairs
20.
that I can fit into.
Yeah.
And some when I'm fat
like
and some when I'm skinny. But yeah, how many? You're
501s.
right, Paul. You're right, Paul. The other genes, the GENES ones. Yeah. 36
33?
chromosomes. How many
36 to
GENES?
me.
Shall I tell you?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've got
God,
no idea.
can you?
20,000.
Huh.
Yeah, I was
Kind of a
surprised by
random
that too. Give or take, yeah.
Couldn't fit them in your wardrobe.
No, I know. What would you do with
That doesn't seem like a lot. It either seems like too little or too... Like, I thought you were going to say, if anything's in the human body, it's either millions or gajillions or 1 or 2. But all of a sudden, it's like, oh, no, 20,000. I mean, that seems rather random.
It's more than I
Who counted
imagined.
them?
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Mr. DNA. Mr. Gene. I don't know.
11,994, 11,995. Honey, can you change the channel? Oh, no! 1.
Exactly.
Two.
1. Two.
I feel like there are probably people listening right now screaming
Screaming at how
Screaming at
stupid
us.
we are. Yeah.
stupid we are. Yeah,
That's
and
all right.
I
I'll
apologise
take
for that, but I'll take it on the chin too. I definitely am that stupid.
I'm not a scientist.
So anyway,
It's just
20,000. I'll leave the sciencey stuff now.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you want to know the real irony of that? I actually have a science degree.
Science degree. That's right, you do too.
So yeah, I should know that, but like, who cares how many genes you've got unless you work in the field?
Yeah, and unless
And
they
not
fit
like
you.
not like the rice field.
Yeah, no, unless they fit you already. Even when you've
Unless
got,
they fit you.
yeah, unless you've got the goal ones that you know are never going to fit you again, but you will not throw them out because you think, no, one day I could be thin
whole
enough to get
wardrobe
back
full of
into
that.
them. Yeah, same.
I've got a whole wardrobe full of that.
Yeah. So as we know,
We just try it.
all of those genes are then coded into your DNA, and DNA is like a fingerprint. It's wholly individual. Since 1986, law enforcement has used DNA to positively identify perpetrators and, in some instances, exonerate people who've been wrongfully accused of a crime. But as we know, many people don't have their DNA on a database or file. I don't think I have. I've not committed a crime, not that I've been prosecuted for, or ever
Yeah,
provided
last
a
week we
sample.
found out otherwise.
So arguably, I could feel it would be hard to track me down if I were ever going to commit the perfect crime and be stupid enough to leave my DNA there, just saying. Anyway, do either of you have your DNA on file?
I do. Because I did, because I'm adopted and I was interested in my sort of backstory, my ethnicity, I did Ancestry.com.
Perfect.
So I am on a file.
Yep.
Whereas I do have people within my family who do not wish to be, they're not interested in
They don't
doing
wanna
it.
know,
I'm
yeah.
just like, is that because you're criminals? I don't know.
No.
But yeah, I respect people's right to choose one way or the other.
Yep.
But mine is on a system. Yeah.
Fair enough. Paul, Woo, have either of you done the Ancestry.com thing?
No.
So I had a nice little quote from Rafiki from The Lion King about people who go on Ancestry.com and like sites like you, Carla, because they want to know who you are. I'm talking about genealogy sites where you can submit your DNA to understand more about your ancestry. I know they promote it, so we've covered that. But by the way, they promote it on Ancestry.com in Australia about, I'm the daughter of a convict. Isn't that amazing? Or a bushranger.
Yeah.
I personally don't think I'd be that chuffed to discover that.
No.
The worst,
Oh,
Mum's done
really?
our family tree. Well, Mum did our family tree and she came across a bigamist. I'm okay with that. That's all right. Record keeping. It was the 1800s. Could have been hard to get a divorce, whatevs. But no, not a proper criminal. Anyway.
Well, you're
did
the
you
proper
know, though,
criminal of
Carla?
the family.
I am, yeah. Did you know, Carla?
That's why you don't want to care that you're related to a bushranger, because you're way worse than a bushranger.
Yeah. They really need to step up and do better if they're
you're
going
way
to try and beat
sneakier.
me. That's right.
Yeah, you'll
just
never
find- I
get
just
caught.
think that'd be
Not-
Like a fox.
That'd be totally wasted on me. I can't imagine bringing that up in conversation with anyone to impress them at any point. Well, did you know I'm related to a bushranger? Fucking well done, Carla.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
oh,
Date
wow. I know. Yeah.
Which one? Yeah.
I know. Oh, not necessarily some other sort of subpar, as one of my kids would say, some subpar bushranger.
Just someone who
Yes,
got
anyway.
drunk and shot someone,
Oh,
in a
God.
mining scenario. But Carla, did you
In the
know
bush.
that your DNA record can be used by law enforcement?
Yes, I do.
Oh, that's good. No, it is actually good because it's one of the questions about the ethics of these things.
I do know that. I was aware of that. And it was something that when I was having those discussions. So someone in my family is very much against it because he thinks that it's used in ways that are sort of not particularly forthright. People aren't aware what they're doing when they're giving their DNA over. For me, it was like, well, I'm pretty sure I've done nothing wrong personally. But then what if I do something in the future? I'm on record.
Yeah, and look, hold on to that thought because that'll come up when I talk about the cases and sort of the stuff that I actually am interested in exploring is around that discussion around the ethics of the utilisation of this data.
Yeah.
All right. So just to do the legalese, my sources today are the ABC News in Australia, ABC News USA, The Sun, UK, Daily Mirror, Wikipedia, and kentonline.co.uk. And just so that you both know, I'm going to cover two cases. So one after the other and then come back to kind of the roundup on what happened with them.
At this point, I'm just worried that there's no lad Bible. I'm worried about this story
That's
is
what
going to be too highbrow for me. What?
Yes.
right.
Where's the non-credible
nervous
sources?
now.
That is.
Sorry.
I'm
We
out.
are fairly
You
credible.
can do this by yourself.
Absolutely. This sounds like hard work.
It's
I'm gonna have to
already
listen.
rubbish.
What did you say to me the other day, Paul? When you thought we were late and you were just early and you were like, stick your podcast. I don't care. Yeah. I've only got credible sources. You can stick this. That's right.
Yeah,
He was joking. He was joking.
This is a waste of everyone's time. No one's going to listen anyway now.
Oh.
Credible
Well,
sources. How embarrassing.
All right. Okay. Well, make some stuff up in between. It'll make you feel better. All right.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with the Golden
do.
State Killer. The Golden State Killer, also known as the original Night Stalker, not to be confused with the later Night Stalker being Richard Ramirez, the East Area Rapist, Diamond Knot Killer, and Vasilia
Does it go like the
Ransacker.
Night Stalker? Does it go the Night Stalker, the later Night Stalker, and then the wee hours of the morning Night Stalker?
Yeah, it's a strange thing that this Night Stalker thing gets picked up all the time, but this one's called... So the worst part about this is They have I called Richard Ramirez the later Night Stalker. He's just called the Night Stalker. This one's the original Night Stalker, the OG.
Oh, so he's like the sequel as opposed to the later hours. It's not the shift he's doing. He's not his murder shift. Is like he only does 2 to 4 a.m. He's just like the
Night
sequel,
Stalker
right?
returns.
Like the graveyard shift Night Stalker. The dawn Night Stalker. No.
Yeah. Pre-dawn Night Stalker.
Pre-dawn, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, this case has been covered by a lot of people, a lot of podcasts, a lot of
but
TV,
not Lad Bible.
Not Lad Bible. Maybe I didn't look at Lad Bible. I'm so sorry, all right? Get over it.
Hang on,
Anywho, yes, I'm sure Lad Bible has stories about the
I'd hope
Golden
so.
State Killer. Anyway, so a big one. There was a big book produced by a really good book produced by a woman called Michelle McNamara, who was a bit of an armchair detective, or I think she called herself a citizen detective, i.e., not a professional law enforcement person. And she was obsessed with this case because she was absolutely convinced that it could be solved. Sadly, she passed away, but her book was posthumously published by her partner. And now, Carla, you'll probably know this one. I'd be surprised if Paul does. Her partner was Patton Oswalt.
Oh, I don't. The name sounds familiar, though.
All right. So he's most recently, I've seen him in Only Murders in the Building.
Oh, yes. I know. Yes. With Selena Gomez.
Yeah. He plays
a small dark man with a bit rotund, maybe? No?
Yeah, Tubby. He's not really dark.
Yes.
He plays the Hollywood, the one who actually sponsors them, their first sponsor, who they then think is a murderer.
I've not actually watched it. But
right, okay,
I haven't seen it. It's come highly recommended, though.
Oh, it's funny. I've watched it. It's quite funny. It's about podcasters.
I'm sure he would love to hear both of you describing him.
I think
rotund and tubby.
I think
Tubby, yes.
knows he's a little bit of Tubby. I'm sure he's aware of it.
He's not. He's just
rotund.
Perfectly fine as he is. So, I don't mind a bit of chub. Anyway,
Jesus.
As this case alone could be an episode or 3, I'm going to skim the details and move along. I've done my credits. In 1974, a spate of home invasions took place in Visalia. The perp would rifle through underwear drawers, vandalise property, but ignore cash in favour of stealing cheap keepsakes. Up to 120 homes were burgled. But then in 1976, the robberies in Visalia stopped, and police in Sacramento were actually grappling with a spate in Sacramento, so further north, of more home invasions and now sexual assaults. So the perpetrator had begun to escalate his attacks, and initially he would target women or girls who were home alone. Sometimes, months before the attacks, the victims would receive phone calls with someone breathing heavily or notice that someone had been in their house moving items or taking things. The guy would stalk his victims, peep in their windows, check out their houses, and plan his attacks. He's very well planned. After attacking and raping 15 women, he eventually started to attack couples, tying the husband up and putting a pile of dishes on his back so that if he moved, the sound would alert him. He'd take the woman to another room and rape her, sometimes repeatedly. Taking a break in between rapes, he'd sometimes move around the house, he'd eat food out of their fridge, he'd take a beer, he'd watch some TV, and then he might return and rape the woman again. And sometimes the victims, he would be gone wandering around and doing this for so long that they thought he'd left the house, only for him to return. So they were absolutely terrified. So, and while he was raping these women, he'd often put the television on and put a towel over it so that he could use the sort of light, the low level light, so he could see his victim as he raped her. So it was important to him to see the fear and experience the terror of these women.
Oh, so he'd put the TV on and a towel over the screen.
Over it. So he wasn't looking at the television. Yeah, that's right. He was just using the light to be able to...
I thought he was watching the TV through the towel and going, what? That's not going to work. I get so lost in the detail.
But he usually took the woman into the lounge room where he'd rape her. And he'd get the woman to tie the man up. He usually had a gun or a knife on him, and he would always threaten to kill the children in the family or kill them if they don't comply. So things escalated again, and the Golden State Killer started to kill his victims. Police have attributed 45 rapes now and 13 murders to him. However, in 1986, after the last quite brutal murder, the Golden State Killer seemed to just disappear. So, total cold case. He just seemed to stop. And he'd been prolific from 74 to 81. And then he stopped for 5 years. And then he killed again, just the once. And then he disappeared.
I was thinking 13 murders between 74 and 86 was quite a lot. But if you had a 5-year break in there as well.
It's prolific,
Jesus.
yeah. In fact, I'm not sure because I've done the skimmed version, I can't remember when he started killing. But he basically did lots of home invasions. Then he started the raping, and then the murder. And he didn't kill every couple. So in some instances, he broke in and he raped the women. He tied the man up, and he didn't kill them. In other instances, he just killed them. So it was it's hard to work out what he was doing. Why was he killing those people over others? There's a theory that he stopped because there was quite a physical confrontation with one of his last victims, who was a very tall person. And the theory is that he got frightened that he couldn't overpower, or he got a fright basically. But we don't know. We don't know why he just stopped. Okay, so on my second case now. Just a year after the Golden State Killer stopped his attacks, 2 women from Kent were murdered. They're not related, by the way. It's not the Golden State Killer going over to England and starting to kill people.
Okay, so in the UK. Right, okay,
different perpetrator. Wendy Nell's body was discovered in her bedsit in Guildford Road on June 23rd, 1987. Caroline Pierce, who was 20 years old, who lived in a bedsit in Grosvenor Park, was murdered 5 months later. The day before her murder, Wendy had left her job at Super Snaps on Camden Road at about 5 p.m. She worked in a photography shop. Remember those? Where you go get your film. You get your film processed.
Developed.
Yeah. I was like, wow, that was amazing technology back then. Yeah.
We had one of those in the Kmart that I worked at when I was just my first job, and there were some interesting photos that people put in to get developed. And there's little 15 and 16-year-olds who are doing the developing, just going, what?
Is that what I think it is?
Yeah.
He put that where?
What are those two doing? Anyway.
All right. So after she went, she left her job, and then she went to the bank and she went home. Later that evening, she went to her boyfriend's house where she spent the evening with him and his mother watching television. And apparently they were watching a thing, and on the news, Fred Astaire had just passed away. At about 11 p.m., he dropped her off at her ground floor bedsit. He kissed her goodbye on the doorstep, and he never saw her alive again. Sometime that night, Wendy was raped, beaten, and strangled. She was left naked on her bed, covered by a duvet. The next morning, after Wendy didn't get to work and her boyfriend hadn't heard from her, he went to her house, looked in her window, and eventually climbed through the open window to find her dead in her bed. During the initial inquiries, police thought the murderer had broken into Wendy's bedsit via this faulty window. However, they couldn't find any evidence of forced entry in any way. They also discovered, though, that Wendy's distinctive key ring and diary were missing. So this person who did this took some of her belongings. A bit like the Golden State Killer, he was taking keepsakes and things from houses.
Uh-huh.
When you say keepsakes, is that like, snow domes and that sort of stuff?
Earrings. Yeah, little tchotchke type things. He wasn't taking anything the Golden State Killer didn't take anything of value. He was literally taking, exactly what you just described. The crap you get when you go to Trial by Wine World.
Mementos.
When you go to Trial by Wine World and you go to the merchandise shop and there's some little piece of shit there, That's exactly what these sort
Oh.
of things they're
Yes.
taking. Yeah.
Oh, that looks
What's this?
good. I'll
Is
miss
this?
that.
It's a big pencil with an eraser on top that says "Peasant World."
Oh.
I think I'll take that. A jumbo pencil. A Peasant World. Wow, these people
Yes.
know how to live.
I'm sorry, I have to pause for a second. I'm just writing that down as a merchandise idea for us.
Oh, don't worry, I'm all over the merch. Peasant World. Jumbo pencil.
Yes. The key ring, which was a souvenir from Austria, had a small brass cowbell attached to a multicoloured key fob, a brass plate with Woman of the Year engraved on it, and 2 keys. And they have never been found. And a bit like a case, I think, that you covered the other day, Carla, with lovely poor old Dorothy Stratton, the forensics also indicated she'd been raped posthumously.
Mm.
Ugh.
5 months later, Caroline Pierce was living in a flat in Grosvenor Park and working at a Buster Brown's restaurant in Camden Road. She was attacked outside her flat. Her body was dumped 40 miles away in a field on the Romney Marsh. Caroline was last seen about midnight when she was dropped off by a taxi at her home after a night out with friends. Her neighbours reported hearing 2 short screams and seeing a car reversing and leaving the street shortly after. She was wearing a long black skirt and red jumper, though when she was found 3 weeks later, her body was naked apart from a pair of black tights. Like Wendy, Caroline's keys were never found. She had also been beaten, strangled, and savagely raped. The public dubbed the apparent serial killer, because we've got 2 killings with very similar MO, the bedsit killer.
Uh-huh.
And like the Golden State Killer, he seemed to stop offending and was never identified. Nothing happened after that.
Do you reckon the public really did name him that, or was it just the media? Because I don't think the public.
Oh, I think the media did. Yeah.
Yeah, I do
I
too.
think you're quite right there.
calling-
Well, the public.
I'm calling out your credible sources right there. Let's get back to
And
Lad
Schmidty?
Bible.
Yeah, can you remind me, because bedsit's a very English term, does that mean it's where you have a room within a larger building, isn't it, where you're not, do you know what I mean? A bedsit is not you don't have a whole apartment, is that right?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think a bed sit is literally like a giant room where you've got the bed, the kitchen, like it's like a big open plan space, and
Okay.
you might have a toilet. It's effectively a one
One
It's
room.
like a
one
studio.
room
Setup,
apartment.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a
like a
studio.
studio.
Yeah. It's a tiny little spot. Yeah, tiny little thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just don't use that term very much here, do we?
No, and both
No.
girls were very young.
Yeah.
So one was 20 and one was 23, I think. And,
Yeah.
both working in, one was working in a restaurant. The
Yep.
other one was working in a
Happy
retail,
times.
so they weren't making tons of cash. So a bed sits and they lived alone. So the bed
Yes.
sits what they could afford, I'd say, at the time.
So
Yep.
Oxford Languages says a bedsit is a one-roomed unit of accommodation typically consisting of combined bedroom and sitting room with cooking facilities. I hope it
Yeah.
has a bathroom as well.
No, that'd
Maybe
be
that's shared,
Unless
is
there's
it? That's shared, I
Common
think.
one, maybe. Yeah,
I think it's
right.
common. That's where I think
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know. Anyway.
So both killers left semen at the scene of their crimes. Both broke into homes and raped women. Both peeped into the houses of their victims, and both seemed to stop offending suddenly. The title of the book by Michelle McNamara is actually a quote from the Golden State Killer, where he said, "I'll be gone in the dark." And it certainly seemed that way. Both cases were over.
Sorry to interrupt, because I think I'm just making a connection now between the Night Killer and the later Night Killer, or is that what you call
The original
them earlier?
Night Stalker and the Night Stalker. Yep.
Yes, and I feel like if we turned this into a movie and it was like National Lampoon style, it would be the Night Killer's European Vacation or the Night Killer's UK Vacation or something.
Oh, I see, because they've like gone off from killing in America to England and
Yeah.
they've done this.
Yeah, like National Lampoon's Vacation.
right.
Yes.
But only briefly and just for a little
It was just a
holiday. But
vacation. Yeah, 5 months, 5-6 months.
I couldn't
yeah.
let go of my job. I couldn't leave it at home for that long.
Right.
Sorry, I'm just desperately trying to find something funny in all of this because
Well,
it's just
these
not okay.
I was going to say, as if I said, thank God we laughed at Lad Bible, because I don't dare laugh at this stuff. It's so dark.
Yeah. That's so true.
The cases aren't funny. I think why I'm looking at this is just I'll get to the interesting. Well, it's interesting, but I'll get to the interesting bit. It'll make more sense in a minute. Okay.
Yep.
So both cases. Anyway, there's justice coming, which will cheer you both, right? And that's the great
I hope it
moment.
I hope it comes quicker than winter in a Game of Thrones.
It does. It definitely comes faster than winter.
That shit was
Swifter than
coming
enough
for
nut
years.
I'm about to tell you now. Both cases were over 30 years old when they were finally solved, thanks to family ties. Dun, dun, dun.
The show or the...
Dun.
Yeah, Michael
Where's
J.
that button?
Fox himself personally solved it. No, thanks to a little old thing.
They went back to that earlier incest episode and realised that Mallory's uncle...
Does that mean like the family members of the perpetrators are the family ties?
Let me tell you. Right.
I'm all ears.
So, in
Okay.
2018, the story broke that the Golden State Killer had finally been identified and arrested. And Michelle McNamara wasn't the only person who obsessed over this case. You know, for 30 years, there was so much evidence. There's so many things that he did. It was so hard to believe that, you know, there were a couple of photo fits from his early victims, but so hard to believe this person could literally just not get caught, right?
Yep.
Joseph James D'Angelo Jr., a one-time policeman in a burglary unit, was identified through familial DNA matching. So, going back to your Ancestry.com thing, Carla.
Yes.
And as an aside, he was fired from the police force for stealing a hammer and dog repellent spray. Don't you think that they might have investigated that a little bit at the time? Dog repellent spray and a hammer. Things that you would need to be a burglar. He was a policeman in a burglary unit. You know, it's a bit like, apparently, rumour has it, I've read it on Lad Bible, that, you know, arsonists like to work in fields that allow
It's a
them
real thing.
to set fires, you
They
know.
often volunteer firefighters.
Well, I didn't want to say it. That's why I pulled the Lad
coincidentally
Bible.
always first at the scene.
Yes,
Yeah.
so they can watch it because it's wonderful. And I wonder whether or not this person, this D'Angelo, you know, obviously he goes from burglary onto other things, but I'm wondering whether he got his passion by being a policeman, learning about burglary, or he always had a thing about it. Don't know. Anyway, when he was
Is it
arrested,
like a reverse undercover cop? Like if what's the opposite of an undercover cop? If you're a criminal that goes undercover as a policeman,
A beat cop.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a mole?
an undercover criminal. I'm an undercover criminal.
Is it a mole?
I hope they don't find
you're
out.
just a...
No,
You're
it's an
a
undercover
crooked
criminal.
cop.
You're bent.
You're a crooked cop.
You're a crooked
mate.
cop.
You're a crooked cop.
Yeah.
You're a crooked cop.
Yeah, he's a very crooked cop, this one. So when he was arrested, prosecutors would say only that they had used family tree searches to find relatives of the killer and from there identified D'Angelo. Shortly after, a detective confirmed the investigative team had uploaded semen from a rape kit to develop fresh DNA profile that was then uploaded to GED Match, which is like Ancestry.com, an open
That'd
source
be a shit job, wouldn't it?
rape kits. Apparently,
No, getting semen to get fresh
I don't think it was fresh
DNA.
semen.
DNA. Like
I don't think
It wasn't fresh semen. It was a fresh sample.
no, getting semen.
They had it on ice.
No, getting semen.
They had it on ice.
Like
They had it on
yeah,
ice. Yeah.
just that.
They had it on ice.
It's a crusty thing on I don't know, a piece of clothing that they have.
Do you
to
think
then
you'd struggle with that around the
refresh.
barbecue when everyone says, "What do you do for
Oh.
work?" Oh well,
I don't think
Yeah.
you need much. You only
Semen
need,
collector.
Yeah. You only need the
Yeah.
most minute amount of semen to actually
a
get.
thimble.
No,
a thimble.
way less than that.
No, not even.
Teeny tiny amount to actually.
I'm
get
just
a DNA
saying it's
profile
not a
fit.
fun job.
Well, you know.
I don't want to have to get dried, crusty semen and make it fresh again.
Would you just be a pathologist?
You'd be a semenologist.
A semenologist.
I don't,
a
a
semen.
semenologist. I'm starting to think of like earthquake seismologist.
Seismologist. Yeah, that's
Seismologist.
it. Seismologist. That's
Yeah,
what
it'd be
I
something
thought too,
like
actually.
that. Yeah.
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 Seaman. Yeah, all right. I'm going to stop saying seaman.
I wonder if there's a Richter scale for semenologists.
Yeah, I'll tell you, this would have gone on a good of 8, this one. So anyway, the point of what I'm trying to tell you, right, is that when he was originally arrested, the prosecutors who work with the police to actually identify him and create the case said, "Oh, we just worked it out by looking at his family tree." But really, what they did was they got a fresh sample. They well,
From
not
who?
no,
Of?
as in, sorry, when I say a fresh DNA profile, I mean they ran it again, right? So they went back to a piece of evidence that they had and they ran it again to create a new,
Right.
a fresh DNA
Right, got it.
profile, not fresh
That's
semen.
a very important distinction in my head.
Yes. And then they uploaded it to GED Match, which was one of these open source platforms used by members of the public, to trace their heritage. So, like you, Carla. What they didn't disclose is that the genetic material from the rape kit was first sent to family tree DNA, which created a DNA profile and allowed law enforcement to set up a fake account to search for matching customers. So when that produced only distant leads, a civilian geneticist working with investigators uploaded the forensic profile to MyHeritage. Ray Venter was her name, as in that's her surname. And she said she used her personal account on MyHeritage and didn't notify the company. So she's used her personal account to put someone else's DNA profile to search for matches.
That's not okay. That's like working at Foxtel like we all did and looking up someone famous's phone number and ringing them up and
I didn't
telling
do
them
that.
how much you love them or something.
I didn't do that because that
Totally
would have
not.
been very naughty. Yes, but yes, it is like that. And I'll get onto it in a second. Anyway, so the second cousins that she discovered through her surreptitious search created a narrow pool of suspects whom investigators codenamed the Wright family. Right. A month later, the FBI visited one of these. A month later, the FBI visited one of these cousins, an Orange County woman, to ask for her DNA. Her brother, at this point, had become the prime suspect of the Golden State Killer case, right? That woman's genetic information cleared her brother, but told Ray Venter the killer was related through the women on the family trees that authorities were building on yet another consumer geology site, Ancestry.com. So these are three different platforms that they're using. So it's MyHeritage, GD, Match, My Family Tree or something. Sorry, 4 now that they're building to get all of this information together. Now, only 6 male cousins were possible fits. An FBI search of California driver's license records showed that only one of these 6 men had blue eyes that fit the profile Ray Venter said she'd built. After 10 days of surveillance that included police enlisting the help of a garbage truck driver to snatch DNA-bearing items from his trash can, D'Angelo was arrested. I'll just say that again because it's funny.
Thank you.
Imagine it. After 10 days of surveillance that included police enlisting the help of a garbage truck driver to snatch DNA-bearing items from his trash can,
funny.
D'Angelo was arrested. What?
So not even an undercover cop pretending to be the Garbo, just the Garbo.
The Garbo,
going,
yeah.
Please keep an eye on this bloke.
Look,
yeah,
can you
gold.
when you pick up that rubbish, could you just put it in your front cab? Don't put it in the back. Pop it in the cab,
Yes.
bring it to us, and we'll go through it. Why couldn't they just go through it? Anyway. So, D'Angelo, 75 now, pled guilty before going to trial. He's serving 26 life sentences in a California prison. Right, that was
Are they concurrent or are they one after the other?
Good question. I don't know. I suspect they might be one after the other. But then again, he's 75. So to your point the other day about, giving someone 120 years
That's
or
why I'm
2 million
asking.
years, what's the point? They're going to
Yeah,
die.
he's going to
One
take
life
up a
sentence
jail
is
cell
enough.
for a long, long time.
Well, for as long until he dies, but not as long as some people would like him to. It's not like
That-
they give you 26 life sentences, and I think that's like, so he murdered 13 people. So you might say, well, we'll give you 2 life sentences per person. But the fact is, he's only going to do his time,
At trial by wine world, you would get 1 life sentence and 25 life sentences worth of equivalent punishment whilst you're doing the first life sentence.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, fair enough.
Because
Nut punches,
so it just makes that
piranhas,
1 life
bee
sentence
stings.
even more painful. All of that.
The whole lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, good.
Yeah.
So back to the bedsit killer. 34 years later, law enforcement in the UK refreshed DNA samples from previously cold cases and started to test for familial DNA matches against their database. So the UK have been a little bit slower, from what I could tell, to pick up on this familial DNA testing protocol and working through. Now, this is good. There was a DNA trial of just 1,000 people. So, someone's gone along and said, can I have a DNA? And they were just testing it, right? And it just happened to contain a partial genetic match for DNA found in the saliva and semen that police recorded from the crime scenes of Nell and Pierce. And they were able to then investigate the family links of the match and identified David Fuller as the likely perpetrator. Pardon me, I just did a little belch in the between. Sorry.
Classy.
So
Well
basically, what's incredible about that is that was David Fuller's brother, and he just completely flukily was happy to be in a trial. And
forgot himself.
No, it's his brother. He didn't know anything about it.
Oh, his brother.
It's like you, but it was a trial. It wasn't even an Ancestry.com thing. It was like a tiny little,
weird.
well, relatively tiny sample of people that had given their DNA for whatever the purpose was. It went onto a database they were able to check against, and they found a match for this guy.
Wow.
So yay for familial DNA. But I'm not finished.
Bloody oath.
And that's a shame, because it would have been a great campaign for it when they do the advertising on TV.
Yeah.
Yay for familiar DNA.
Yes.
Yay. It's a yay for me.
So, when the police went to arrest... Oh, no, I'll start the way I wrote it. Where Fuller and D'Angelo are not similar, though, is that while there's no evidence that D'Angelo did anything nefarious after 1986, David Fuller is a card-carrying necrophile. Yeah, didn't see that coming. A necrophile.
I've got that bit. What's the card carrying bit?
Like he's proud of it. He's carrying. Have you never heard the expression "a card carrying ex"? A card carrying.
I thought you had a deck. He had a deck of cards of each of the people that he'd necrophiled. That's messed up.
Help me out here, Carla. Like a card carrying liberal, or a
Yeah. Sort of a committed person who.
Yeah, exactly.
Show your support.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is my bad.
I've got the card for it. Like I've joined the group.
Yeah.
I'm part of the membership.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
correct.
But that was the bit that I was
that's
kind of thinking. Was he carrying cards of the people that necrophiled? And
Necrophiled.
you're disgusting. Even more disgusting.
No, wait until I tell you. You want to hear disgusting? Okay. All right, you ready?
Oh, hang on, I don't know if I do. No, I'm not sure.
All right. Well, I'm going to do it anyway. So when
I haven't left, so clearly I do want to hear.
Yeah. Imagine you're a policeman, right? And you're like, yay for familial DNA. Yay for familial DNA. Let's go arrest this guy. And they go to the house. And there were other clues. And so obviously DNA is one component part, but you've got to have other things that line up the case. You can't just be on DNA, because at the end of the day, you could say, well, yeah, I went to her house, I was her electrician, and we had a quickie. That doesn't mean I killed her. So there have to be other things. And there were other bits of evidence that they were able to match him to. One being there was a mark on a blouse. I think it was a blood or mud mark on the blouse left by the perpetrator that had a very specific sole mark on it, which was a Clark's sand shoe or something. And they found photos in his house that had him wearing exactly that pair of those shoes that would have had that sole from that period of time. And apparently they were quite rare shoes. So
I was going to say, it sounds like a fashion crime to me.
it wasn't
Clark's.
Clark's. Well, it was 80,
That's
it was
right.
87.
Yeah.
Come on, it was 1987.
Fair
Anyway.
enough, fair enough.
But
Kayaks.
yeah, apart from that, when the police searched Fuller's house, they found 4 external hard drives carefully hidden, taped to the back of a chest of drawers that were in a cupboard. So, if you imagine a cupboard, chest of drawers in it, right at the back, these things spy-like, taped to the back. So obviously not meant to be found. And it was a Pandora's box of disgusting that they opened. From 1989 to 2010, Fuller had worked as a technical supervisor. He was an electrician at the time that he murdered Nell and Pierce, and then he went on to have this job in 2 hospitals in Kent. His role required him to check the refrigeration units in the morgue, which meant he had swipe card access to the morgue and post-mortem room. As it turns out, the post-mortem room also had no CCTV because it's a respectful thing, right? And was a great place for Fuller to rape the dead bodies of at least 100 women and girls aged between 9 and 100.
Oh.
Over the time of his employment, by the way, not like all in one day. And sometimes repeatedly.
I hope not.
Well, I just realised the way I wrote the sentence sounded like, yeah. I just wanted to clarify.
I didn't pick up on that.
Okay, good. And sometimes he would rape them repeatedly. So if a body was in the morgue for 24 hours, he may have raped that person 3 times. And the layout the layout of the morgue was such that a porter could bring a corpse into the receiving area. So if you imagine 2 rooms, and down the middle of the 2, separating the 2 rooms, is the bank of refrigeration units, and the receiving area is where you put the body into the fridge, and that's locked. But on the post-mortem side, to do the post-mortem, they'll take it out on the other side, right?
Yeah.
So
Like
he
an
was
airlock.
so he was able to take a body that had been put in on one side out and defile that body without anyone knowing, because he was in this space. Yeah, he was in this space with no CCTV, because when you're doing a post-mortem, it's not considered okay to have CCTV, security guards able to see someone carrying out a post-mortem. It's not respectful of the dead, and neither was David Fuller.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So the layout was such that a porter could bring a person into the receiving area, store the body, and not know that this guy was in the next room, at times actually raping someone while they were bringing people in. According to the logs of his access card, he'd been in that area thousands of times. No one seemed to notice that there seemed to be a lot of maintenance needs for the morgue.
Yeah, I was going to say, come on.
Well, they didn't notice. Well, and it's hard to get your head around the case, but most of all, how terrible it has been for the families of the dead who have lost their loved ones, and also have to deal with the knowledge that they were defiled after their death. And it boggled my mind, this story. So the first thing that really interested me.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just go quickly. What they found in the hard drives, were they images that he'd taken?
Yeah, no, he filmed himself. Sorry, I got distracted when I was just explaining something before. So yes, on the hard drive they found, I think it was 4 or 5 terabytes of really bad pornography. Like, I don't mean like waka waka pornography. I mean, child horrible stuff. But they also found films of him. Actually, he filmed himself whilst raping these people for his own, gratification. And see, the thing is, when the police went to arrest him, they were arresting him for these 2 original murders. They had absolutely no idea that he'd been doing this. That's why I found it so fascinating, I think, because, yes, the familial DNA found a perp, but it also uncovered this, couple
I
of
misunderstood that, but now that I think about it, because no one knew that it had been happening.
No.
So there was no one had reported it. There hadn't been a complaint made about perhaps that these bodies had been moved, touched, interfered with,
no one knew anything because they just got buried.
God.
And it seems
yeah.
like and I'm not surprised, but like a funeral home director, someone who's dealing with in a what do you call it?
I do have one question,
They wouldn't
though.
have noticed, they
That-
wouldn't have looked.
That was in the hospital, right?
Mhm.
So if they're interfered with in the hospital and then there's a post-mortem, then they're taken to a funeral parlour, whatever.
Sorry.
Wouldn't somebody at some point understand that perhaps there were bodies that were being brought in that had been raped? I mean, especially if it was a little girl or a grandma, wouldn't you sort of, I don't know if you're checking for those things, but wouldn't there be some evidence to suggest that it happened? That's gross. Do you know what I mean? I'm going off on a bit of a tangent.
No, I
Apologies.
do know what you mean. So you're basically saying if there's a timeline for a post-mortem, someone comes in, and so I don't know the detail. I don't know I don't know exactly what he was doing all the time. Like, so there are different means to defile a corpse and rape. And I don't know whether or not he had worked out that there would be certain cases or bodies that wouldn't have to have a full
checked.
internal or checked for signs of, like, if it was a person who came in under, I suppose, violent means, you might look at them and say, oh, have they been raped, or look at the body and that come in as a you know what I mean, a victim of crime.
Yes.
Versus look, this is all coming from my just watching TV, but versus someone who's had a car accident.
That's where all of my knowledge comes from.
Exactly. Versus someone who's had like a
correct. It's like I'm school. That's my school.
Yes.
but
NCIS Academy, Law and Order Academy. That's where I learned.
Exactly.
That's where I studied.
We deal with
Law and Order
non-credible
Institute.
learnings and non-credible news sources. Anything with credibility, I can't cope with.
Yeah,
I can't work with that.
I'm concerned.
Well, it's interesting.
In terms
but
of,
I don't know, Carla,
people
but
who
it's a really
have
good point.
shit jobs,
Mm.
I'm concerned about the person who has to go and notify everyone, up to 20 years ago that's happened. Because what does anyone get from that? That's
true, isn't it? There's no.
Would you want to even know if that happened?
I want you to keep that person in your mind who had the worst job ever when you get to sentencing, right? Just layer it on for this guy.
Okay.
Because there are so many victims. That's the point. This guy has been described as one of the most what's the word I'm looking at? Prolific sexual predators in the UK now. He only got arrested last year. This case is very new. He hasn't actually been. It's in trial now. He hasn't been sentenced yet. So I was going to tell you, in terms of his trial, Fuller initially denied murdering Nell and Pierce. However, after hearing 4 days in that they had conclusive DNA evidence that linked him to the crimes, he said, "Oh, yeah, all right, I did kill them," although he's claiming diminished responsibility. He's saying he was mentally unfit at the time. So he'll likely receive a double. But he'll likely receive a mandatory life sentence for murder. Incredibly, in the UK, the law has a maximum sentence of 2 years for the sexual penetration of a dead body. So again, I would like the trial by one jury to go to town on this.
Could you just repeat that, please, Schmidty?
The maximum sentence for raping
I did hear that correctly.
For raping a dead body in the UK is 2 years.
That's practically incentive for some of these sickos. It's not long enough, is it? You're better off going to a dead body.
It's almost like they condone it.
I know, that's bizarre. I thought I must have misheard you when you first said it.
And this case has really raised the profile of that, because it's the kind of thing that
I bet.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you don't think about every other day. And so there's a mounting pressure to basically change the sentencing periods for these sorts of crimes. Okay, so the revelation that
I'd like to throw my support to that campaign.
Yeah, me too.
Yes, me too. Let's start. What's it called?
We're doing another movement.
Change.org.
Yeah.
We'll do change.org.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Why am I receiving this from 3 Australians? Well,
What's it do with them?
we've got all our support.
They're disgusting.
The Trial by Wine team are fully behind
Yeah.
it. It's our first. It's our
Yes.
first. I don't know, community sort of
Campaign.
initiative. Yes.
Yes. Let's get on
We
that
would
shit,
like
everyone.
to.
It does.
I think that's brilliant. It does speak to our values and the sort of the territory that we work in. We would like to see the minimum sentence
Increased
raised
to 100,000 years.
And what is it?
And
do you call it
400 nut
necrophilia?
punches. Yes, it's necrophilia. A person is a
Yes.
necrophile or a necrophiliac.
If they have,
Yeah.
if they have sex with a dead body.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's there you go. That's our first mission. We're doing good, people. We're doing good.
Oh, goodness me. I'm just going to put a bit more tonic in my glass.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I thought
we're
you said a bit more gin.
Stuart's just giving us a half a glass of nut punch each, and then the nut punches are finished.
What I was going to say, though, talking about the fact that you have to have the follicle in a human hair, did you know that with a cat or a dog, though, you don't? Because they lick themselves. So often the DNA is in the saliva of cats and dog hairs much more than
So if it-
people who
so
chew
it- so if
their
it-
own
human hair.
hair.
That's an interesting fact. Anyway.
So if a dog is raping bodies
Well,
after the
no.
dead,
Yeah, I suppose.
just to be clear, right.
Yes, if a dog raped a
Yes.
body after they died and
Yes.
you needed a DNA sample from its hair that was left, you'd be more likely to get a DNA
Correct.
sample.
And the
off
same can be
dog
said for
hair
the
left
cat.
on the human's body after it raped
So
the
if a
person.
cat, okay, just to be
Then you
clear,
would
if
a
there are
person.
any dogs or cats out
Yes,
there,
yes, absolutely, yes.
If I ever find myself in a job where I'm investigating dogs raping people, I'm quitting.
dead people.
That is the dead people. That is too
That
far.
you draw-
I'm-
you
that's-
got to
no,
draw
I'm
the
out.
Are you? This is
I
sick.
will not do that.
This is sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is this a setup or did
To
this
be
really
fair,
happen?
you're more-
Because this is wrong.
I have a line, and I'm telling you where it is. It's here.
That's right.
You've
That's
crossed
right.
it.
Yeah. You are much more likely, though, Paul, to find yourself investigating a case where a dog ate a dead body than raped a dead body.
Thank you for that. Important
true, isn't
distinction.
it?
Well,
that's
I'm
a bit-
unlikely to find any of that because I
Again-
don't do that.
Again,
but-
I'm again thinking about Bridget Jones, where she worries about being single and alone, dying on her own, and being eaten by Alsatians, which is funny because she doesn't even own an Alsatian.
Oh, I
But
wanted
anyway.
to say that, but I think we
Right.
know where I was going to head
right.
with that. What her real concern should have been. Sorry. Don't worry, that was very rude.
Okay. All right. All right. So the revelation that familial DNA not only helped to solve a cold case, but also to bring an end to decades of depravity was what really drew my attention to this case, right? Without the fluke of Fuller's brother giving his DNA in a trial and the quite recent practice of using familial DNA, he'd still be violating people without any recourse or concern. To your point earlier, Carla,
I know.
no one knew this was happening. No one was looking for it. He could have just kept doing it.
I'm kind of glad no one was looking for it because that's just sick. Like, it's
How old
bad
is he?
enough that
He's in
he
his
did
60s.
it, but
I could have gone for retirement, but he's like, oh, no. I'm happy to keep working.
not.
I'm committed.
These are the golden years.
On the job. Dear God.
Now, if you think about why did he killed these two women and then he didn't, well, as far as we
Kill
know,
again.
he didn't kill again.
Yeah.
And he did rape them posthumously. Maybe this was his outlet. You know, maybe this is what stopped him killing other people, was because he had access to bodies and he could,
Dead bodies.
you know, enjoy his predilection towards necrophilia rather than have to kill someone to satiate that. It's just my theory. No one said anything of the sort. I'm lad bibling it here, but that's my theory.
Possibly
I like that.
possibly there was a shortage of dead bodies when he went and murdered.
Or he didn't quite know what it was that he was attracted to, maybe. Who knows? There was a lot of stories at the time in that area about a peeping Tom. So he started, you know, same thing with the Golden State Killer, you know, people looking in your houses, people, you know, going into your house. He was doing that sort of behavior. So that's the other thing. When you hear about people who, what did they used to call it when they took your knickers off the line, snow dropping or something? When someone
Yeah.
when someone
I've never heard of
steals
that.
a lady's underpants off the line.
Oh, haven't you?
I think it's called
No.
snow dropping. Yeah, it's a very old-fashioned term.
There was a book called The Snowdroppers
Oh.
when I was at school.
And it was about that or something else entirely.
I'm sure it was, and I'm going to have to find it.
Right.
I've not heard that. So that just
Could have been
simply
just
means
about, stealing
stealing
clothes, I think.
stealing underwear
Ladies'
or clothes
underwear. Ladies' underwear off
clothesline.
clothesline. Yeah, yeah.
Well, there you go.
And anyway, the point was, if you come across someone who's snowed.
Oh, here we go. I found. Hang on.
Go on,
I
go.
found it. I'll give you. So the Snowdroppers, book by Tony Scanlon, the zany adventures of three rascals who take to stealing people's washing from their clotheslines until they are nabbed by the local constabulary.
That's where it starts. The next thing you know, they're raping bodies in a morgue.
Exactly.
That's right.
Thank
That's
you.
the
Such
only
as
thing.
zany
That's
adventures.
precisely the point I was
This is
gonna
only the
make.
first
Yes.
first book of the series. Wait till you get to book 20.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
It's
they're
Yeah, the
raping people in
necrophilia.
morgue. That's right. Yeah.
That's right.
The zany adventures of a 60-year-old man who walks in a morgue.
Woo!
A 60-year-old rascal. God.
That was the point I was trying to make, which was starts what people have now said, oh, that's harmless, that's no big deal.
A bit of snow dropping, yes.
Yeah, totally escalates. Same with peeping toms. They escalate as well. So none of these
Jesus.
behaviours are good,
Whew.
safe, not a concern. They're
They're a
Oh,
gateway drug.
a gateway drug for, snow droppers. We know where they end up.
Yep.
Right. If you're wondering, both Fuller and D'Angelo were married and had children and families that had absolutely no idea that their father, husband, or brother was a killer and a rapist. Both just went about their lives seeming to be perfectly ordinary whilst carrying on a double life of mayhem and sexual depravity. There are some questions around the ethics of familial DNA, but law enforcement in the US take the view that if this information is publicly available through an open source platform, then why shouldn't they use it? In 2018, police forces in the US said they'd been able to identify suspects in 28 cold murder cases. This was in 2018. And I didn't get around to finding out what the statistics are now, but when they first started using this technology or looking at it this way, 28 cold cases that were solved. And as of April 2019, GED match had been used in at least 59 cold case arrests. So, this technology has been able to really pinpoint people. If you had the
And it
chance-
evolves as you get more data as well. So even for my profile,
Mm.
I think I did it, I'm guessing 2 years ago. I think I did it just pre-COVID or something. So as they get more people do their test, they get more DNA, and that gives them greater insight as to parts of the world you're from and what, how your ethnicity is reflected. So my profile has changed the more data they've got. So as time goes on, they'll get more data, and it also will help them in other ways. So I imagine that it'll only get better as a tool, not worse. That's quite interesting.
I was just going to tell you, so Stuart just made reference to the case of the smiling stiffs.
Yes.
Oh yes.
So it's the first sex-rated whodunit, and there's a bloke who's the stiff with a smile on his face, and the two, they look like they're quite defective detectives. Can you see that picture?
Yep. Yes.
And the captions are, "She killed them with one blow," and the other one says, "Who said nobody ever died of it? But what a way to go." And then there's a little spiel about it. The case of the smiling stiffs. The victim, a male body found in a very stiff state with a big smile on his face. An arresting tale that bears investigation.
Brilliant.
Jeepers.
Ooh.
I'm right in understanding that's a porn, yeah?
Is it? I don't know.
Oh, I wasn't thinking that.
I wouldn't have thought that.
No? It's just a really crap
No.
film.
I think it's
Oh,
just going to be
God.
like one of those, what's
Cheesy.
that show? Porky's or something
1973,
like
yeah.
that, where it's just...
It's a sexploitation comedy, it says. I don't know what that means exactly. It's from 1973.
It'd be like Porky's or something where they just have all these terrible
Yeah.
A sex
I've definitely heard of
things,
it.
I imagine.
All right. Okay, so that's my notes. Now I just want to talk. So I guess on the topic of ethics around using familial DNA or using your DNA that you think you've put in for ancestry.com to find out your heritage that ends up determining that your second cousin is a rapist and murderer or was involved in a crime. What are your thoughts on the ethics of that?
Initially, I was thinking that, like, if you send off your DNA and then somehow that is used without your consent to convict you of a crime, that's not okay. But I think some of what we've spoken about here isn't actually using using the criminal's DNA. It's using everyone else's DNA and narrowing down a suspect
Yes.
based on that, which by the sounds of it is kind of public domain anyway. The only thing I guess that might be unethical is that if you're working for the police and you're uploading someone's DNA as a fake profile, then that in itself is unethical. And so it's not so much the process so much as using the DNA as a fake profile.
Yeah.
If you're getting results from somebody who's already on there, different story.
Yeah, that was odd. I don't know why they would need to do that.
That's weird, wasn't it?
Yeah, and these sites actually included in their terms and conditions that say that your material may be used, by law enforcement, etc. So
against you.
Well, yeah, I mean, you would know better, but yes, it could be used against you. But I mean, I guess my view of it is like you, Paul, where you're saying if you're using my DNA to identify someone who has committed a crime, who happens to be related to me, I don't see that as a problem in terms of my privacy. It'd be different if I was then identified as the linking point in the press, and that was a major issue. But from if it's done in a fashion that is normal due process, then I don't have a problem with that, because if I give my DNA up and I haven't committed a crime, like Carla said at the beginning, I haven't done anything wrong, so I don't see what the problem is. I've got nothing to be hiding, so I'm not worried about my DNA being used in this way. Even if I did commit a crime, well, I committed a crime. I shouldn't be seeking to just get away with it, if you know what I mean. So I don't personally have a problem with it from an ethical perspective.
I think it depends on the seriousness of the crime and also the recency of the crime. So if you're talking about crimes like solving cold cases, I think that's probably a little different to solving current cases, and not necessarily right or wrong. I just think it's it's easier to say this is a crime that happened 30 years ago and we haven't been able to solve it. Let's rerun the DNA and see what we can find. Whereas if the first thing is there's DNA, quick, let's run it through the family tree program to see what we can find.
If you don't have a direct match.
I don't know, maybe it's okay. There's also evidence, though, that happens at crimes that isn't related to the killer. And so, to the point earlier about the electrician who may have been there or whatever it was, you just need to be careful, I guess, that you've done all the rest of the work.
I don't disagree with you. And I think that if you are looking at a crime scene where, and they do this, they basically will take samples of people who are likely to have been in the property or around the person, I'm talking about a murder, for instance, and to discount them from the investigation, to say, no, you were there. There's no reason for us to suspect that you actually did anything wrong. But, like me at home, my DNA is going to be all over the house, right? So my nieces, my sister, her husband, whatever. So if something happened, then they'd take our samples, because they were determining that if they're looking for someone else, if they're looking for someone outside the family, they kind of want to discount us. And it's the same as they take your fingerprints and all the rest of it. So your DNA is the same as your fingerprints. Now, if I'm a criminal and I leave my DNA at a crime site, and I've already given my DNA for Ancestry.com for argument's sake, and I just killed someone, and you are able to identify who I am as a direct match because of the Ancestry.com DNA and the DNA at the crime, I think there's a benefit in that, in as much as otherwise I could go on to kill 6 other people until you catch me, because my DNA is not on a criminal database. It's on a, ancestry database. And so there's a prevention piece as well, which unfortunately with the Golden State Killer, 45 women were raped and 13 people were murdered, and there was no means to identify this person throughout that process to stop other victims. Anyway, it's just an interesting thought. Now, Carla, you started at the beginning saying that someone doesn't agree with this.
Mm-hmm.
Got anything to say about that or not?
Well, no, I don't want to sort of out that person as such,
course.
but that person is very clear on where their roots are, and so they're not looking at it to solve the picture that I was. For me, I was really, really interested in what my ethnicity was, because I kind of don't necessarily look like, I don't look like my family, sorry. And also although I did meet my natural parents, there were still quite a few questions there. So that's why I undertook that. And as a result of that, a couple of other people in my family got quite excited, and then I actually bought it as a gift for them. So some people are for it, and I don't know. I don't know if it's not going to offer you anything, then I don't see the point in doing it necessarily. But it feels like it's not going to be. It might be your DNA solving the crime for someone else. It's unlikely that you're going to be the person who's going to offer it up if you've committed a serious crime. Certainly, I think you wouldn't be that. Well, you might be that stupid, but you probably wouldn't be.
You kind of offer it up.
It's the familiar ties. Yeah,
you offer it up if you leave it at a crime scene.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. So so then if you get linked to something you've given in the past, not related to a crime.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just my view. I just think
the only thing is that it has to work on the assumption. Well, it works on the assumption that all police are doing the right thing, and I think we've seen plenty of examples.
Absolutely true.
Where
so
that isn't the case, and so
it can't be the only piece of the puzzle.
Correct.
That's
correct. Because if
correct, and that's the bit about you don't want it to be the first thing that happens, because it might steer the case in a certain direction.
Correct.
They should have to have enough evidence to kind of be going, this is the person that we think we need to find.
No, you're absolutely right. And in the case of both of the people I talked about, it wasn't just about their DNA. So, I talked about the Clark's shoes. There were a couple of other things that they were able to link to this guy who was in the right place and blah, blah, blah. Same with the Golden State Killer. He was in all of the locations. So, at the beginning I said he was ransacking Visalia, and then he goes to Sacramento. They can track the movement of D'Angelo that matches where these crimes took place when he was moving. He moved from place to place, and they can track that they were his movements, right? So there is further evidence that's not just about your DNA. The thing about D'Angelo was both of them, they would never been able to find the person's name to be able to connect all those dots without the DNA.
Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is for those detectives to then go and access that kind of a database for the purpose of solving a crime, they should have shown that they've got it down to a certain point. They've done all this research, and this is the DNA of the person that they think 100% did it based on this and this and this and this and this, and therefore go and do it, as opposed to
just out of interest.
Just running DNA.
Yeah, just out of interest though, do you think that applies because we're talking about matching it to people who are not on a perpetrator list? Because all the law enforcement now will take your DNA. If you get arrested, they take your DNA and you are on file, right? And so they run DNA from crimes against that database. They do that as a matter of course now. So is what you're saying?
Yeah.
The difference in the process is because
if your DNA's been given because of a criminal process, I think that's different to if you've given your DNA for the purpose of
family,
of finding out who your relatives are. And so I don't think that that database should necessarily be able to be accessed. It's like the whole COVID checking thing that we've had lately, whereby the police have a number of times tried to get access to that database to work out whether or not somebody was around at that time, and they haven't been able to because they feel that that undermines the process of the COVID check-in, because then people won't want to check in
Correct.
case something
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
I think it depends how
We had that over here.
how strongly you trust the law.
Mm.
And I guess for me, the reason I'm saying this at the moment is we watched something during the week, which you might have seen. It's on Netflix. It's called When They See Us, and it's a horrible story. I was still going to do it as one of our stories, and maybe I still will, but it's about the Boston Five, I think they're called, or
Oh,
the
yeah.
Harlem
Yeah.
No, they want the New York, aren't they?
who were kids.
No, the kids.
Yeah. Oh, Central Park
Central
5,
Park,
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, Central Park 5. And they,
It's terrible.
yeah, and they were all convicted completely wrongly.
Mm.
And you look at that
Yeah.
process, and I go, if those people had access to anything that would help them build a case without any proper fact,
They would have done
then-
it, yeah.
and try to make fact from that,
Yeah.
I don't want
Yeah.
that happening.
It's even the
because
same as the David
that's not
Avery
okay.
case, Making a Murderer. Have you seen that one?
I've never watched that.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. And
yeah.
it does. If you just watch the documentary, it's very much positioned that he's been framed by the police. And what was it? It was keys in that
Yeah.
case, not DNA. But you're right. It doesn't take much to put a few DNA cells in a drop of blood here or there and say, there you go, bang to rights. Yeah, I get your point. But
Correct. Yeah.
in this case, I wouldn't be taking Carla's DNA and putting it at a crime scene, because it's familial DNA we're talking about. So I'm matching a criminal's to Carla based on a series of matched markers in her DNA and saying,
Well, I hope you're
What?
not. Carla, are you feeling a bit threatened by this? I don't
Honestly,
recall
where's she
any of
going
this
with it?
being
clearly
about you.
hypothetically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The difference here, because I get your point about how it has to be used in the most ethical and appropriate way. But I'm not saying, what I'm saying is that this is not the case of saying I can't see how I could fit you up, Clarky, by getting your sister's DNA or by running your DNA because I found
but you
it
might
against her DNA.
Yeah, no, I understand all that. All I'm saying is that in terms of the ethics of it, there needs to be some pretty good process around it. It shouldn't just be,
Agreed.
oh, look, there's some DNA. Let's just use that, because I think DNA can be deemed as a fairly definitive piece of evidence when perhaps it shouldn't be. So
Oh, absolutely. You have to have more evidence. You have to have more evidence because DNA itself could be circumstantial, which is the point I was making earlier about, say I get murdered and there is semen on my bed that isn't my partner's because I've been playing away and no one knows about it. And then the person who gets picked up is the person I've been sleeping with, unbeknownst to anyone else. It doesn't mean they killed me. So that semen being there is circumstantial. It's not.
It means you need to change his sheets,
Well,
dirty bitch.
obviously, but this is how this stuff works. This is how it works.
Yeah, there you
I
go.
didn't have time. I got murdered by the
Yeah.
next guy. He came in
Oh, God.
3 hours later.
How
Anyway.
very inconvenient. It's like, oh, I just want to change my sheets first.
I was having an epoch. I was having a summer
I'm
of.
a lady
I
of
was
the
having the
night.
summer of Schmidt. No, it's just on rotation. Oh, that never happened. Never going to happen.
Summer
Just
love
being
it.
rude. Anyway, okay. So to sentencing. All right. We hope you're enjoying the show. We are a completely independent podcast, and we want as many people to hear us as possible. We need your help. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook at Trial by Wine, where we share our updates, and contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. We can't thank you enough for your support. Now, back to the show. Now, I know that most of my topic has actually been about the fascination of familial DNA, less to do with the two nasty people that I spoke of. But I think we could do justice to their victims by adding a nice trial by wine case, trial by wine sentence to them. So, do either of you have a view?
Are the two people that we're sentencing and two only are
Golden State Killer and David Fuller.
Golden State Killer? Okay. Well, Golden State Killer, for me, I don't really know much about him, and I have seen stuff on TV. When we finally got to work out who it was, I have seen stuff. And with the exception of the fact that he was a policeman, I don't have much of a picture of what he was like, because other than that, all I know is that he was a married man with some kids and just seemed to be pretty pedestrian in the sense that there was nothing
That's exactly
outwardly particular about him that would make you very uncomfortable. Otherwise, it was just he was just a psychopath in the under the cover of darkness.
Don't let fact get in the way of a good sentencing.
But I don't know. I just think with him, there's not. You know how I like to try and find something about their character that I like to punish.
Yes.
I struggle a little bit with him, and I only can think of him being some sort of, machistic. I can't even say the word. A policeman of the 80s who was, very masculine, treated women terribly, and I just sort of think I reckon that he would really have cared what his colleagues thought of him.
You're
how he was
absolutely
perceived.
right. You're absolutely right. Let me tell you, it's a little addendum based on that. The man who fired him from the police department, he actually had planned to murder him, and he went to his house to kill him, and he looked in the windows, and
the man who fired him had planned to murder him.
D'Angelo planned.
He had planned to murder the man who fired him.
D'Angelo planned to murder the guy who fired him, and he went to his house to do so, or to suss it out. But he couldn't see in the bedroom window or something. And then that guy was later, after he was caught and all the rest of it, that guy said he remembers his daughter waking up in the night and his daughter lying on the floor next to the bed. And he said, and she was a little kid, and he said, "What are you doing?" She said, "There was a man looking in my room, so I'm coming here." And kind of, time went off and he'd never thought about it. And then it all came back to him when they actually caught D'Angelo, because he was like, that guy used to work for me. I think it was the prosecutor who told him actually he was planning to knock you off, but circumstance prevailed in such a way that he didn't get to you. And he felt very guilty that it wasn't obvious to them that this guy was. That's the point.
Under
He
their
said,
nose, they missed him.
But he said, I just couldn't imagine he would have killed someone. Just couldn't imagine it. Sorry. So I'm supporting your position on that, Carl.
Yeah, if I was going to sentence him, it would be something kind of along the lines where he would have to be totally, beyond disrespected, but like just had the whole police force against him and just thought that he was an absolute nobody, nothing, lowest of the low, totally judged by them. He wasn't a man. He was not even, he was worse than a criminal because he was a crooked cop. And put him away and just leave him to rot, to be honest, because I just don't know enough about his MO. I don't really quite get who he was as a person. And all I've got to hold on to is the fact that he was a disgraced policeman. That I'd have to work with that.
His wife is really devastated, not because she was in love with him. She left him in 91 because she can't believe that there was no sign of this.
She had no idea, so she didn't leave him because he was.
No, he wasn't violent. He wasn't violent towards her or the kids. There was nothing that gave it away. And she says she's suffering from PTSD because she can't get out of her head what he did to other people. She's tormented by the fact.
She's a good person.
Yeah, she's a good person. It's awful.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now, Clarkie, I'm sure you'll go to town on him. What would you do? Take him straight to the trial by wine world?
Well, yeah, it definitely does involve trial by wine world. So I was just thinking about old mate with his 26 life sentences, and then the bloke who was necrophiled, 100
And still murdered.
bodies
And
or
murdered
something, and he gets 2 years.
Murdered two lovely,
Yeah,
bubbly,
yeah. But
innocent
so still,
women.
he gets
Yep.
2 years per. Yeah, yeah. So, but 2 years per 100
Per body,
body.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's 200
Mm.
years that he's going to get. Not to mention the murders. So he's up to 250 years or thereabouts.
Yep.
So neither of them are going to do anywhere near that, and we haven't done our movement to try to get that 2 years taken up to 25.
Yep.
Yes,
I
Schmidty.
put my hand up to say that in trial by one world, time works differently. So they could live.
Does
Yeah.
it? Is there just one little section of it where it does?
And that means that they could live forever. So you
Forever.
so don't feel
I've got,
restricted
like-
by their actual
Age.
mortality. We can deal with this. Yeah. In trial by one world.
Well, yeah, no. Well, I was literally just going to go. Well, they can both have a life sentence, but it's really about how that life sentence looks. So
Yeah.
I think at those sort of carnival type places, there's often the sideshows, and you've got to shoot someone, and then if you shoot the target, you get the teddy or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think they could both be the targets that get shot multiple times a day. It
With
could
real
be,
bullets.
You get
Not with an air
someone
gun,
if
yeah.
you hit the thing.
Yeah, not with an air gun, with real bullets. Yeah.
Oh, well, no, I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be real bullets that actually
Just
kill
hurt
them.
them.
It's just got to hurt. a
Rubber
lot. So perhaps
bullets.
not.
Rubber bullets
Rubber
hurt.
Yeah. So the
Paintball.
Yeah, paint. What's that
Paintball.
Yep,
thing? That could do it.
Pellets.
You could get that thing where you have to hit the target and they fall into an ice bath.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't always have to be an ice bath. It could be, like a weak hydrochloric acid solution.
That's
or,
yeah.
I don't know,
just a
something
weak
like that.
hydrochloric acid.
That would
Yeah.
work. Okay. Yeah. I think like if you went into the Dodgem cars, you could just how you see those things of people buried in the sand up to their head.
Yes.
You could just have them somehow with only their head above, and they just get banged into by the
Aw.
Dodgem cars all day. Like that would be really, really annoying, I think. So I think that sort of thing for me would be quite good. And then if it was only 25 years of that, well, they wouldn't last that long anyway. But I would want them to last for 24 years and 364 days, roughly, so that they get maximum punishment
Yep.
for that 25 years.
Fair enough.
Hmm.
Do you want to hear my sentence? Oh, Carla, did
Oh,
you
yes,
want to
please.
sentence David Fuller?
Oh, yes,
before
I
go
do.
there?
David Fuller.
Family man, father of three, I think. Oh no, married 3 times, 3 wives.
Was he? Oh.
Most lately married to a woman who worked at the hospital as well.
Rascal retirees.
Oh yeah, such a
Snowdropper.
rascal.
The retired snowdropper.
Well, didn't that
Yes.
escalate quickly?
Mm.
I don't know. Again, I find that really sad in a different way. And I mean, obviously, the
That's
fact that he'd
awful.
murdered such young girls, but the fact that he had this sort of like a prolific career as a electrician, at the what was it, the hospital morgue?
Two hospitals, 2
He
different
certainly shocked a
Two
lot of people.
hospitals. Oh yeah. He's just sick. That's just oof.
Yeah.
I just think I just sent him to jail for the rest of his life. But what worries me with a lot of these people is just having contact with other humans again, really,
Yeah.
and the risk that they put other people at when they just their sense of morality is
So wrong.
I don't know. It doesn't register with how we operate as a community or.
He's shown- I don't think he's
And
shown.
can you really rehabilitate
yeah,
someone?
I
Yeah,
don't think
David
you can.
Fuller's shown no remorse as far as I can tell. The Golden
Yeah.
State Killer said, I did all those terrible things. I heard voices in my head. I think he said it was Jerry, someone called Jerry in his head. And then it stopped.
Oh, yeah, Jerry. I used to work with a bloke named Jerry. He wouldn't say that.
Anyway, he said at
I'm
some
not going
point,
for that at all.
some point that stopped around 86. His reason, not excuse, his
what was his
rationale
reason?
was that the voices in his head or whatever this demon was that was
Yeah.
driving him went away when he was in 1986, and that's why he was able to go on and be normal. normal enough to not
for a time.
murder. No, for 31 years until he got
that was
caught.
it.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
never did
yep.
anything again. But yeah, so anyway, sorry. I was just adding more.
But
more facts
if
to the
that's where
story.
you find it, it's sort of, if somebody had this moment where they had clarity that they had been, I mean, I actually probably nobody would, but if you're an ex-person, wouldn't you? Probably wouldn't, but wouldn't the right thing to be say, I've done this and come clean? No, you just wait to think you'll never get caught. Yeah.
I think
So
he was.
I'm living with that would probably be pretty awful.
Right, because the voices told him not to come clean.
Yes. And that's the problem with a lot of these people. A lot of these people are not stupid. A lot of these people don't have to be incredibly conniving to get away with what they've done. I mean, the guy in the morgue, I mean, really, the sheer amount of organisation and knowing where other people were, their movements. Otherwise, somebody at some point would have noticed that. Somebody would have had to have seen something at some point.
Also, serious balls.
To cover that stuff is
serious balls to do that. Yeah.
Oh, don't mind me.
Well, then, serious nut punches.
Serious nut punches.
He needs a serious fist for those serious balls.
All right.
Agreed.
So you're both just putting them away and stuff. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
What are you going to do?
And stuff. Tell us.
I'm going to do a Certificate 3 in Shamanism.
Oh!
And I might follow that up with the Diploma of Shamanism, because there are some electives in that I'm interested in. And so when I complete those electives, they'll be things around astral
projection.
Thank you. Astral projection.
Oh.
Through time and space.
That's when you leave your body.
Well done. I didn't see that coming at all.
Thank you, Stuart. Astral projection through time and space. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to project myself back to a period of time where both the Golden State Killer and David Fuller are beginning to show signs of veering from the path of righteousness. So that could be the snow.
Not just snow dropping.
I was just going to say, no, because that's my point earlier. Snow dropping is the beginning of veering from the path of righteousness, because it escalates. It can become. It seems harmless, can be very serious.
Listen to you. You're sounding very preachy now when you say.
I know. I just came up with it. I thought it was funny. Anyway, so I'm going back to then, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my shamanistic powers that I've newly gained from my excellent qualification. And I'm going to basically suck the life force from both of these people. I'm not going to kill them, but I'm just going to give them the equivalent of chronic fatigue. So they're so tired, they can't get out of bed. Right. They can't rape anyone. They can't kill anyone. They can't hurt anyone. They're just going to stay in bed, knackered.
They just got ME, isn't that what we used to call it in the day?
They've just got ME forever. And then I'm going to
chronic fatigue.
But I'm going to take that life force and I'm going to funnel it into the lives of every single victim of both of those monsters, including the families of the dead who were defiled, anyone who was negatively impacted. I'm going to take their life force and I'm going to farm it out to those people so that they live long, happy, joyous, trauma-free lives, because that's what those two fuckers robbed them of. And that is my sentence. Drop mic.
Nice.
Well done.
That is. It's a little heavy if you don't mind me saying.
I'm wondering if the voices of the Golden State Killer would tell him to get out of bed if he had chronic fatigue syndrome.
Get up, Jerry.
Or
Jerry.
if they would just say nothing.
Jerry would say, get up, you bastard.
Yeah, Jerry, get up, you lazy
Shut up,
fucker.
Jerry, I'm too tired. I can't. That's the point. It was a bit because
because Jerry, if Jerry tells him to kill someone, he'll do it. But if Jerry says get out of bed, oh mate, I can't do that. That's way too hard.
Too tired.
Stop with the voices in your head excuse.
Well, that's what the police said about the voices in the head. But some psychologists would say that you can grow out of those sorts of things. It's feasible. I'm not one of those, as in I'm not a psychologist, so I can't call it either way. What I will say,
Didn't you do that module on Law and Order?
No, I didn't. What I will say, Carla,
the Law and Order Institute, that's where I studied.
Did you have Mariska Hargitay.
Oh, good day. Yes, she's my senior. She's my what's it
She's
called?
my advisor.
Doctor. Yeah. Dr. Haggerty.
I had a different sentence when I first wrote this, which is be much more up the trial by wine alley. And then I had to give it a lot of thought. But I was going to originally sentence them to trial by wine world. They're going to go to, what did I call it? Peasant world. And they're going to be, perpetually cooked up and made into Leonardo, what was her name? Chucciano, whatever her name was, lady from last week.
Yeah.
Soap.
They were going to make her into soap every day.
Soap maker.
Tea cakes and soap for them. But then I thought the whole kind of Groundhog Day of torture seemed a bit passé. So I wanted the victims to not be victims. I wanted on this occasion to provide them the opportunity to be everything that they should have been. Yeah.
I think you've done them justice because I think sometimes and I've had this instance a few times when we look into these stories, there are a couple that I haven't brought to the table because I found them really difficult to sort of reconcile with bringing to the table and having a bit of a laugh about. And this is one of them where it's like, it's so horrendous what they've done. So I actually really think your sentencing is fitting because, these so many people have been affected, as you say, not just the victims, but their families and then the people after they've died. Oh, God.
Yeah, but even the people
who worked in the hospital.
Exactly. People who worked in the hospital.
Everybody.
To Paul's point, the poor bastard who has to ring people up and go, got some bad news. All of that. Just so many lives. So, I know it wasn't our standard kind of, piss ourselves because both cases were quite dark, but I also thought the whole DNA thing was just fascinating.
Oh, it's riveting.
The ethical thing was really interesting. And I just couldn't get my mind off that case and off this familial DNA thing. So I appreciate you both being along for the ride. And lucky we had that early Lad Bible joke or otherwise.
Oh, thank God for Lad Bible. It might be my go-to gag, but Schwanny's trotting out Lad Bible again.
I think you'll be surprised. Sorry. I think you'll find that we laughed at quite a few things today.
Yeah.
Not sure about that sexploitation. Sexploitation. I don't even know what that means. I'm going to go look it up. Anyway, so thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed today's show, as in my stuff and things.
Great job. Well done.
Well done, Schmidty. It was great.
And I absolutely miss you already.
Oh,
all right.
Ciao.
Oh. Miss you more.
Bye. Thanks for your time.
Until next time. Ciao. Bye. Ta-ta.
Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website, www.trialbywine.com, to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.